Affairs and Related Agencies Subcommittee will come to order. Thank you all for participating in the FY22 Member Day hearing. I'm sorry, I think I need other members to just go on mute, please. Thank you. Before we begin, as this hearing is fully virtual, we must address a few housekeeping matters. For today's meeting, the chair or staff designated by the chair may mute participants' microphones when they are not under recognition for the purposes of eliminating inadvertent background noise. Members are responsible for muting and unmuting themselves. If I notice that you have not unmuted yourself, I will ask you if you would like the staff to unmute you. If you indicate approval by nodding, staff will unmute your microphone. I remind all members and witnesses that the 5-minute clock still applies. If there is a technology issue, we will move to the next member until the issue is resolved, and you will retain the balance of your time. You will notice a clock on your screen that will show how much time is remaining. At 1 minute remaining, the clock will turn to yellow. When your time has expired, the clock will turn red, and I will begin to recognize the next member. In terms of the speaking order, we will follow the order set forth in the House rules, beginning with the chair and ranking member. Then members present at the time the hearing is called to order will be recognized in order of seniority, alternating between majority and minority, and finally members not present at the time the hearing is called to order. Finally, House rules require me to remind you that we have set up an email address to which members can send anything they wish to submit in writing at any of our hearings or markups. That email address has been provided in advance to your staff. The subcommittee will come to order. Good morning. I want to welcome everyone to today's Members' Day hearing for the Military Construction, Veterans Affairs, and Related Agencies Subcommittee. The hearing today will ensure that members have an opportunity to provide input into the bill this subcommittee will produce for FY22. We are pleased that we have 2 members here to discuss a variety of MILCON VA programs. This hearing is vital for us as appropriators. It provides us the opportunity to zero in on the issues our colleagues are dealing with and help them address important issues through our committee's work. I would be remiss if I did not mention that many of the programs and projects being discussed today have been hindered by the perennial and frankly unacceptable yearly reduction of MILCON funding requested by the recent President's budget requests. Although we have not yet received the FY22 President's budget request, I'm hopeful it will reflect a renewed interest in the critical MILCON funding that not only impacts mission readiness, but also the quality of life of our service members and their families. And even though we do not yet have the President's budget request, I am confident this hearing will help the subcommittee as it looks forward to crafting our FY22 bill and report. I look forward to today's testimony and continuing this productive dialogue. Before I begin, I would like to share that my good friend, Ranking Member Judge Carter, has unfortunately lost his voice. But he really wanted to participate today, and he has asked me to insert a short statement welcoming our colleagues into the record, which I will gladly do without objection. Also, without objection, all written statements will be entered into the record. Please summarize your remarks in 5 minutes or less. Our first witness is Congressman Richard Hudson from the great state of North Carolina. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Chair Wasserman Schultz and Ranking Member Carter. I hope you get a full recovery soon. We'll hear that laugh and hear those jokes again soon. And I really appreciate this opportunity once again to testify before this subcommittee. And Chair Wasserman Schultz, I just want to again express how grateful I am that you provide this opportunity for members who aren't on the subcommittee to advocate on behalf of our military and behalf of our institutions. It's really important, and it shows your dedication to our men and women in uniform, and I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure.
So as you both well know, I represent Fort Bragg. Judge Carter and I like to argue over who has the largest Army base in the world. He may have land mass, but I've got the largest by people. And I'm very proud of the post, and I know you both know Fort Bragg very well. It's the home of the 82nd Airborne Division, the nation's immediate response force. It's also home of the 18th Airborne Corps, United States Army Special Operations Command, and the Joint Special Operations Command. If you can think of any major military operation in the last century, there's a good chance that a unit or a command from Fort Bragg was involved. Simply put, these commands and their subordinate units are the tip of the spear. I'd like to thank this subcommittee and the Appropriations Committee as a whole for recognizing the importance of special operations. Fort Bragg has benefited greatly from significant funding to support our special operations community over the years, thanks to this committee. However, this has come at a cost, and a cost that has not, in my opinion, been fully realized by senior leaders in the Pentagon and even by some in this Congress. And that cost that I speak of is the lack of attention to the infrastructure of Fort Bragg and to the needs of the conventional forces at Fort Bragg, most notably the 82nd Airborne Division. Since 2010, Fort Bragg has only received one MILCON project for conventional forces or for the post itself. Since 2010, one project. To be clear, the 82nd Airborne Division is not a normal division. As part of the 18th Airborne Corps, the 82nd is our nation's immediate response force, as you know. This means that at a moment's notice and under any circumstance, they can be called upon to mobilize and deploy into combat. I'll also note Fort Bragg is the only joint strategic deployment platform that provides our nation the ability to respond in hours versus days, weeks, or months. On December 31st of 2019, as we've discussed, we saw this capability in action for the first time since 1989 in response to an Iranian attack on the American embassy in Iraq. On New Year's Eve, a call went out to the paratroopers of the 82nd, get back to the post and get ready to leave. 18 hours later, they were in the air headed to the Middle East. Since the deployment, I've had a chance to engage with leaders at Fort Bragg to see how they accomplished this incredible feat. And to put it bluntly, we barely were able to get it done, just thanks to the sheer will and determination of every soldier and the incredible leadership of their commanders. If war broke out tomorrow with a near-peer adversary, I'm not sure if we would be able to replicate this feat. This capability requires an investment in facilities, resources, and effort. These investments purchase time and options for the National Command Authority. Time is impossible to buy in a crisis. You have to invest today. I understand the military construction process is long and arduous. There are competing priorities among every installation across the country. You have a really tough job. However, I'm asking that you don't just accept the list presented to you by the Pentagon blindly. And I'm asking that you include the top 2 projects for Fort Bragg that would have a direct and immediate impact on the readiness. That's the strategic deployment complex that we've talked about before, and a tactical equipment maintenance facility that would work in conjunction with that deployment complex. Currently, there's not sufficient infrastructure surrounding the airfield to facilitate the timely collection of personnel and equipment in preparation for deployment. As I discussed with you all last year on this deployment, the last time the immediate response force was deployed, soldiers spent all day traveling around the post from location to location to gather their equipment and their arms, rather than spending time briefing and preparing for the mission. And that's a risk to life. And so I would just ask, I know, again, you have a lot of competing needs and not enough money to go to every need. But I would just ask that you look beyond just the top line information coming out of the Pentagon and look at this unique capability and the investment it's going to take to make it possible that we can continue to have this capability at Fort Bragg. So with that, as my time is running out, I would just say again, thank you for this opportunity, and thank you both for your commitment to our men and women in uniform, and would love to host you at Fort Bragg this year, and would love to work with your staff to make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Hudson. Your advocacy for Fort Bragg is exemplary. People should know that you don't just advocate for Fort Bragg on the record. You also advocate very much for Fort Bragg in social situations, on the House floor, in casual conversation, and any chance you get. So I say that firsthand. And I know that Judge Carter is preserving his voice, but I think I can speak for both of us in saying that when we can get back to traveling, it would be our pleasure to coordinate with you to come to Fort Bragg. And then lastly, I would just encourage you, although I don't have a question, I would encourage you, when the president's budget comes out, if the Fort Bragg projects are on the appropriate lists, to submit them as community funding projects, because that gives us the flexibility of being able to move them around. Judge Carter, are you preserving your voice?
Yeah, just want to let y'all hear my beautiful voice. Had 7 needles stuck in my larynx yesterday trying to get my voice to work again. Hopefully it'll work in about 7 or 8 days. But if you got real needs there, we'll do the best we can. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Hudson, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to working with you as the committee develops the chair's mark. Thank you. We now recognize Congresswoman Veronica Escobar. Without objection, your written statement will be entered into the record. Congresswoman Escobar is from the great state of Texas, down in El Paso, right on our nation's border. Please summarize your remarks in 5 minutes. You are recognized, and welcome.
Thank you, Chairwoman Wasserman Schultz and Ranking Member Carter and members of the subcommittee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify on some of my priorities for the subcommittee. As you begin work on the fiscal year 2022 Subcommittee on Military Construction, Veterans Affairs, and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill, I respectfully request that you give consideration to the following funding priorities: barracks and rail infrastructural modernization at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. As a representative for the district where Fort Bliss is located, my community knows and sees firsthand the needs of our military personnel and service members. The subcommittee has historically helped maintain our service members at the highest level of readiness as our nation continues to face new threats and challenges domestically and abroad. Part of maintaining readiness involves providing adequate housing and the newest technologies, capabilities, and infrastructure to the armed forces as well as the National Guard and Reserve components. In an effort to further enhance and maintain readiness, I would like to urge this subcommittee to consider providing funding to refurbish and modernize housing installations or barracks located at the training ranges in Fort Bliss. Many of us, myself included obviously, have visited military installations and have been shocked by the poor conditions of barracks that house our service members. Conditions that must be addressed to mitigate issues of safety, security, and the overall well-being of service members. As you may know, Fort Bliss provides one of the largest training platforms in the Department of the Army and the Department of Defense, housing training exercises and the largest mobilization and demobilization platform for the National Guard and Reserve components of all 50 states and territories. Therefore, I hope this subcommittee considers providing more funding for the military construction and Army accounts to address these needs and ensure that our service members who put their lives on the line for our country have access to quality housing. Additionally, I would also like to request that funding be appropriated towards the railhead infrastructure at military installations like Fort Bliss. I remain concerned that installations like ours with rapid deployment requirements have insufficient rail and transportation logistics infrastructure to efficiently move equipment in support of deployments, training operations, and evolving Army requirements. For example, Fort Bliss has only one railhead connection point for its deployment and redeployment activities. In fiscal year 2019, Fort Bliss supported the mobilization of 72,329 service members using that single railhead alone. Additionally, as a joint mobilization force generation installation, Fort Bliss supports 1st Army for the mobilization, life support, training and validation, deployment, redeployment, and demobilization of National Guard and Reserve component units. Fort Bliss is also the only installation with a Continental United States Replacement Center. This makes Fort Bliss the only JMFGI in the Army. To give you a better sense of the strain placed on the one existing railhead, I would like to highlight that Fort Bliss CRC processes members across several agencies: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Red Cross, FBI, Border Patrol, DoD, civilians, and contractors. These personnel support missions across 5 continents: North and South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, 32 countries in all. Increased funding to support the modernization of the current railhead and the addition of another one is critical for Fort Bliss and my community in El Paso as a whole. Given that, I hope this subcommittee can conduct a review of rail and transport logistics infrastructure and equipment deployment methods at installations with rapid deployment requirements, and submit the review and plan to address the issues identified in the review by the end of the fiscal year to the Congressional Defense Committees no later than 90 days after the enactment of this act. Lastly, I would like to emphasize with this subcommittee, as I have with other appropriations subcommittees that I've testified in front of, that it's essential you include mechanisms within your bill to guarantee and ensure federal funding makes it to its designated recipient. In 2019, we saw the Trump administration illegally sidestep Congress and divert $2.5 billion crucial military construction funding to build sections of a U.S. border wall with Mexico. We cannot allow for funding that we allocate for specific, vital, and necessary military construction projects to be unlawfully transferred elsewhere or to be tampered with. Thank you all for your work, your commitment, and your time and consideration, and for the opportunity to testify before you today. I look forward to collaborating with the subcommittee as you continue to draft the final appropriations bill. Madam Chair, I yield back.
Wow, that was an impressive, right on the money 5 minutes, Congresswoman Escobar. Thank you so much. Thank you for your advocacy. You have really been an incredible national leader on the issues surrounding our nation's border and for the people of El Paso. I will tell you that, as you know, this subcommittee on a bipartisan basis stood fast against the transfer authority that the president unfortunately ultimately was able to utilize. And we also held firm on not allowing backfill so that he couldn't rob Peter to pay Paul. And so we're looking forward from the assurances we've received from the Department of Defense that the overwhelming majority of those military construction funds will likely be restored. And then we'll see the president's budget on how they decide to distribute those funds throughout the MilCon appropriations lists. And we certainly are committed to making sure, and have repeatedly said during our subcommittee hearings to our friends in the military, that we expect that they would be considering the quality of life and the impact on our troops' ability to do their jobs, and making sure to ask, as Judge Carter said the other day, if you don't ask, you don't get, and we expect them to ask, because they should be considering the quality of life and the ability of our nation's service members to do their jobs and the conditions under which they're doing those jobs. So we wholeheartedly agree with you, and the chair's mark will reflect that, and I'm sure that when we discuss it in the subcommittee, that our members will underscore that. So thank you for your advocacy. Welcome, and we appreciate your testimony.
Thank you for your leadership. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you very much. That concludes. Judge Carter, do you have any other words you want to croak out? Okay. I'll spare you. Sorry, I couldn't resist. That concludes this morning's Member Day hearing. I really hope you feel better soon, Judge. I'd like to thank both Judge Carter for taking time out of his busy day to join us. Thank the members who testified this morning for joining us and sharing their priorities with us. I want to remind members that our next virtual hearing is on Monday, May 24th, 2021, and that hearing will be the Army Quality of Life and Installations Update. Thank you very much. Thank you to our staff for preparing us for this subcommittee hearing. Have a good break. Although we're not going to be breaking, we're just shifting to virtual committee hearings at home. And with that, this subcommittee stands adjourned.